Welcome to the Black Liberation Tech podcast, brought to you by Jordan Nuance LLC and hosted by Dr. Renee Jordan. This podcast is a accumulation of Dr. Jordan's dissertation work and her passion for empowering Latinas, Afro-Latinas, Black women, and girls to navigate the academic and professional worlds with confidence and success. Whether you're a mother or guardian guiding a child through grades 6 through 12, an undergrad or grad student, someone working on a dissertation or thesis, or simply looking to carve out your niche in the career landscape, this podcast is for you. Each episode, Dr. Jordan shares her story, offers invaluable advice, and provides practical coaching to help you thrive in school, work, and beyond. Join our community on patreon.com/Black Liberation Tech and become a member for as low as $5 per month. As a member, you'll gain exclusive access to live recordings, impromptu academic and career coaching, and a network of like-minded individuals committed to mutual support and success. You're also welcome to follow Black Liberation Tech on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and LinkedIn, or Black Lib Tech on X, formerly known as Twitter. Visit black-liberation.tech for even more information on Dr. Jordan's adventure in Inglés o Español. Tune in, get inspired, and let's embark on this journey together. Welcome to Black Liberation Tech, where your success story begins. Thank you for tuning in for another episode of the Black Liberation Tech podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Renee Jordan, and today's episode is entitled, I Told You So. So I'm going to start by reading a blog post from November 11th, 2017, and it's entitled, I Told You So, which was the first part of my fourth presentation. And so here we go. On yesterday, I gave my fourth presentation this year at the Association for Educational Communication and Technology, AECT 2017 annual meeting in Jacksonville, Florida, during the Culture, Learning, and Technology poster session. The title of my presentation was, I Told You So, Student Agency During the Pilot Test of a Middle School ICT Enrichment Program. ICT stands for Information and Communication Technology. This year was my first time attending the conference, and I certainly got my steps in as a technology center volunteer. Out of the 3 people who stopped by my table, one stayed and talked to me about my project for an hour. This study examined how students exercised agency, acted on their own decisions during and after school technology program. I am one of the graduate research assistants for this program, and my advisor, Dr. Brendan Calandra, is the principal investigator. During the program, students use our content management system, CMS, side by side with MIT App Inventor to build mobile applications. I need to put in a little side note. So during my poster presentation, people were able to come up to me and ask me questions. And so 3 people came up to me during the time block allotted for the poster sessions. And one of the individuals came up to me towards the end of our one-on-one session. She said that her son needed something to work on during his weekends and wanted her son to participate in the program. I told her it was not available to the general public as of yet, but he could use App Inventor. So I walked her through how to access MIT App Inventor and gave her a quick tour. During the conference, I was able to meet with one of my advisors, Dr. Tudolini I. Asino, Oklahoma State University, and get my latest homework assignment from him, a chapter proposal for a book he's writing. He also gave me feedback on my poster. It will be larger next time, Dr. Asino, LOL. I also had the distinct privilege of speaking with Dr. Patricia A. Young, University of Maryland, Baltimore County. I learned more about her journey and what she is working on now. Top secret. While speaking with her, I shared my research interests and how I ended up where I am in my PhD program. She also left me with a homework assignment. I have to work on my problem statement for my dissertation. Another connection I made was with Dr. Nicola Willis Espinosa. Universidad Casa Grande. She is the decana de la Facultad Ecología Humana, Educación y Desarrollo, aka Dean. She shared that she is one of the 2 people in Ecuador who have a degree in our field. The other person has a master's degree. I look forward to speaking to her about the possibilities of training educators on how to use and integrate technology. People in education love to assign homework. If you ever need to work on something, ask an educator. They will tell you what you need to do. Tony Carr from eMerge Africa also gave me homework to read, and read more about Ubuntu, the African philosophy that situates my research. He not only told me to read, but also gave me the names of some experts to look up. Thanks, Tony. I was glad that I could support my big little sister classmate, Dr. Erica Bass Flemings, as she presented during a presidential session entitled Leading Learning for Change, a Precious Partnership Across Cultures. During the panel's discussion, which included both Dr. Asino and Dr. Young, she shared her cultural experience of her international work and how she used her power as a researcher to gain access to a community in Ghana in a way that would not have been possible otherwise. While volunteering, I came to the rescue several times for those who were having technical difficulties. One of my last acts of heroism was for my sister colleague, Rebecca Yvonne Bayek, Penn State University. I was glad to help get the computer and projector connection right for her presentation on video game play and literacy practices of African immigrant students at a U.S. institution of higher education. In an exploration of why these students were playing video games, she learned that they were not only playing FIFA 17, but also supporting each other academically and engaging in critical dialogues of the political dynamics of their home countries. I enjoyed the conference, met a lot of people, and made some excellent connections. I look forward to getting more involved and preparing for next year. So that was my blog from November 11th, 2017. And when I said that my poster will be bigger next time, I got the dimensions a little wrong for my poster. All I had to do was print the poster, and then they provided the board that it would sit on in the poster presentation session. And so my poster was probably 17 by 14. It was small. So the next time I did a poster, it was definitely larger. It was at least 3 by 5 feet. So make sure that when you're doing a poster presentation, you read the poster requirements. And I greatly appreciate those who bared with me as I presented from my small poster. But hey, you live and you learn sometimes. Now, what I want to go ahead and make sure that I touch on today, I want to talk about a few things. To circle back to the conference, the Association for Educational Communication and Technology, AECT, is the conference that those who are in my field attend. I was very glad that I went because when I looked around the room, there weren't a lot of people who were African American present. And so by me attending, I added to the diversity of the conference by showing up, and not just showing up, but also sharing my work, as well as attending the sessions that were presented by those who were also of diverse communities to show my support and to ask questions and to provide feedback and just to engage. And it was an honor and a privilege to meet the people who I actually read about in terms of using their work as reference tools for my work. So being able to meet Patricia A. Young in person was a great experience. And as a result of that introduction to her, I also kept in touch with her over the course of my doctoral studies, gave her updates, asked how things were going with her casual talks. And I even caught up with her before my prospectus defense. And I also shared with her when I would be doing my dissertation defense. So it was a connection that proved to be invaluable. And I was glad that I was able to meet her. And I was fortunate enough to get feedback from her in order to help my progress during my doctoral studies. So when you go to conferences, make sure you make connections that count. Talk to the people that you read about. Learn more about what they're doing and what they have on their agenda, and ask if you can support them in any way. I often would ask, let me know if you need any help, so that people can think about you if they do run into something and they need an extra hand. It's nice to have a professor to provide you with feedback and support, but don't forget, they need help too sometimes. So please make sure you ask if you can help in any way. If you are fortunate enough to have someone willing to work with you, see how you can work with them so that it's mutual. If they don't ever take you up on your offer, keep that in mind. Perhaps you can help someone who needs help and you just do it for free, just because it's a way of giving back to the circle of support that is needed as people go along their ways. In my blog post, I mentioned that I was volunteering at the AECT conference. Now, when you are a student, here's a tip. Some of the registrations can be costly, and sometimes there are ways to get them paid for. With AECT, I was able to get my registration paid for as a result of volunteering at the conference. They told you up front how many hours that they would like for you to volunteer in order to pay for your registration. And you got to pick and choose from different types of volunteer work. And so since I, once again, have always helped people with technology, I decided that I would be an IT support person for the conference. And believe it or not, even though the conference was full of people who were a part of the Association for Educational Communication and Technology, that doesn't mean that they know how to set up a projector and make sure that their connections are correct when they are outside of their institution. Of course, when they're at their home institution or at their job, they know how to do this. But when you go to conferences, the technology is just a little bit different sometimes. And so they might need help. I even had to help someone who had lost their voice as a result of a cold. And so she needed a set of speakers. And so when I remembered that she needed a set of speakers, I had to get there as quick as possible because the speakers that were attached to her computer weren't loud enough to allow those who were attending her full session. So her session was packed. It wasn't enough for them to actually hear the recording that she prepared for her presentation. And so I was able to get her those speakers. And so I'm glad that I was able to help her in that way so that people could actually hear her presentation. So when you are in need of financial support to attend conferences, take a look at your options. Take a look and see, are there opportunities to volunteer? Take a look and see, are there travel scholarships? Sometimes the conferences have travel scholarships directly associated with them. You just have to look and click through the website a little bit. Also, see if there are student organizations that will support your travel. We had a graduate student association within our department that provided some support for travel. Also, check with your department to see if they will help you travel. Ask your advisor, ask the department chair, ask the program manager for your department if there are student travel funds. There's money out there to get you to conferences. You just have to dig. Dig, 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 dig. If you are working and you're going to school, ask your human resource department, are there funds for me to travel for professional development? Ask your department if you are able to travel to get professional development and see if you can pay for it that way. Sometimes you might have to pay for it up front and they'll reimburse you up to a certain amount based upon whatever standards and per diem rates that they have at their disposal to support you. But the most important thing to do is to ask. Ask, 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 ask. Now, the other thing is, after you've checked the conference website to see if there's student travel, after you've checked your graduate or your undergraduate programs to see if there is support for student travel, after you check with your departments to see if there's money for student travel, after you check with your job to find out if there's money for professional development. If you have to foot the bill, I must say attending conferences is definitely worth it. Now, here's the other thing. If you have to pay for it yourself, or if the money that they provide you is not enough to support it, keep track of your travel. You can write off your travel for conferences when we were talking about professional development, attending for school, attending to present, attending to be a part of a panel of discussants, attending to be a conference chair, attending to be a moderator for a panel. If you're attending a conference as a student or as a professional and as a part of what you need for work, essentially, you can write that off of your taxes as an expense, a professional expense, a business expense. It's a cost that comes with doing business. And if you're not able to get someone to pay for it or to reimburse you for it, keep your receipts, save them, and record them in your taxes. So if you're doing your taxes yourself, make sure you look for the option where you can include professional development or business expense for travel. Now, when you talk to people at conferences and you get their advice and they assign you homework, if you will, in order to help you further your research and further your learning, make sure you do it. Make sure you take a look at it. Make sure you take a stab at it. Make sure you try. And I say that because people will not want to give you advice over and over again if they learn that you're not doing what they said, that you're not even trying what they said. At least make an attempt to see if it works. When you're asking someone for help, the thought process is the person you're asking, you're valuing what they have to say, and they are in a place or have been in a place that you want to go. Perhaps they have knowledge about the place that you want to go, and that's why you're asking for help. So please be diligent in actually following up and doing what people recommend and see whether or not it works for you, or see if it satisfies the need and the assistance that you require in order to make progress in what it is that you're doing. One of the assignments that I was given by Tony Carr in particular was to take a look at others who had written about Ubuntu. And what I found was that others who wrote about Ubuntu, they talked about it primarily, at least in the literature that I found, in terms of leadership when it came to politics. Now, while I value what they have to say, that wasn't quite what I was looking for. And as a result of reading what was referenced to me, I came to that conclusion. And as a result of reading and understanding, that's how it was primarily being used in terms of political connotations. And I wanted to take a look at it from a more educational perspective. I was able to verbalize that, hey, what I'm finding is not speaking to what it is that I am interested in. So later on, as I was working on my dissertation, my methodologist and co-chair, Dr. Janice Bernillier, was able to direct me to Bumuntu, which is the equivalent of Ubuntu in another African language. And as a result, I was able to make a direct connection with the philosophy and what I wanted to talk about, discuss, verbalize, frame in terms of educational research. So while I worked on my dissertation, the question came up from Dr. Asino. He wanted to know why I was using both Ubuntu and Bumuntu, and if it was necessary, could I just consolidate and use Bumuntu? Now, instead of sitting here and reading my dissertation, once again, I want to encourage you to go and read it. The point that I wanted to make was, as a result of doing my homework, as a result of looking up those references that were provided by Tony Carr, as a result of digging deeper and seeing who else talked about Ubuntu, I was able to determine that, hey, I'm using it the way I want to use it, but in order to get a confirming usage, I needed to take a look at how it was being referenced in its equivalent word, Bumuntu. And as a result, I didn't have to do as much explaining. So what is the lesson from this? Do your reading. Take a look at what it is that you're trying to say. Is there someone else who is cutting to the chase and able to get to the point faster than you? And if so, go to that person, use them as a reference and as a tool. And that way, you don't have to rely on yourself to do a whole lot of explaining, but you in fact can cut to the chase. So So when someone tells you to look up and read about what others have contributed to the literature, do that. See what other people have said. Yes, you may be taking a look at something that's unique, something that hasn't been done before, but there's other people out there who have unique ideas, other people who have talked about things that are related to the work that you're doing, and you need to do the due diligence as a student with agency to take a look and see what's out there. Read what others have said. Someone else who I was directed to read about was Sylvia Winter. Now, I learned about Sylvia Winter first in my social foundations class, which was in the education policy study department of the College of Education and Human Development at Georgia State University. And Dr. Joyce E. King was the instructor. And so when her name came up again, when I was talking to my methodologist, Dr. Janice Fernillier, about what it is that I was looking to do, she was able to direct me to Sylvia Winter based upon what I was interested in taking a look at. And so as a result, I was able to take a look at the cultural model approach and learn about the cultural model approach. When Sylvia Winter wrote about it, she was specifically referencing Black education studies. Once again, instead of sitting here reading to you my dissertation, I'm going to give you the gist of the idea about being introduced to the cultural model approach as described by Sylvia Winter. While Sylvia Winter used the culture model approach to frame a Black studies perspective, I was using it to frame a perspective on learning technologies and digital literacies. And as a result of being exposed to Sylvia Winter, I was able once again to cut to the chase and say, hey, this is how this was used as a tool to frame one discipline. This is how I'm going to use it to frame my discipline. And I was able to say, hey, this isn't me just creating things from scratch. This is someone else who did it. This is how they did it. This is why they did it. And I was able to make the parallel comparisons. This is why she did it. This is why I'm doing it. This is how I am implementing it in this instance. So once again, read, read, read. You have got to read. So many people have done great things, and it shows that you are a scholar when you're able to connect with those people who have done great things before you to say, hey, they've done great things. This is how they were able to explain a phenomenon. And as a result, I want to use it as well to explain a phenomenon. But you have to make those connections. You have to do your due diligence, listen to people who recommend you different references and look them up. See if it's going to get at the point you're trying to make. See if they are even presenting challenges that are going to come up. Because the other thing is, when you are doing a thesis or a dissertation, it's not enough to say these are the people who agree with you. You have to know what the counter arguments are going to be and address them in your work as well. So once again, I want to encourage you to connect at conferences, talk to people about what you're working on. The more you talk to people about your work, you're better able to articulate what it is that you're doing in a more succinct manner. People do not have a long time to listen to you. So the more you're able to talk to people and discuss what it is that you're working on, you're going to enhance your 90-second elevator pitch that you will need to be able to share with others to tell them about your work and get insight from others about what they could offer you in terms of help, support, references, resources, tools, other places to go and visit. It might be another conference that you would want to attend that might be outside of your discipline that has more information. And when I say outside of your discipline, it wasn't enough for me to only attend AECT. I needed to attend other conferences in order to get a richer learning experience from my doctoral studies. And so I want to encourage you to network. I want to encourage you to reach out for advice. When you are given advice, follow up, take a look at it, even if it means discovering that, hey, this isn't going to work for me. And this is why it's not going to work for me. You never know when it's going to come back up again. It wasn't until years later that I had to explain that, hey, I wasn't able to cut to the chase with the references from Ubuntu. I needed to go over to Ubuntu in order to get references that help me cut to the chase and not have to spend a lot of time explaining myself, explaining my rationale, but I was able to pull from a source that talked and spoke to it directly. And as a result of having conversations with my methodologist and explaining what I wanted to do, she was able to say, hey, you know what? You need to take a look at Sylvia Winter, and you need to look at a cultural model approach, because this is something that can help you along your way. And as a result of going into the work of Sylvia Winter, taking a look at the cultural model approach and saying, hey, this is something that can work for me, I was able to once again cut to the chase, make parallels, explain this is how it was used to explain a phenomenon, and this is how I want to use it to explain the phenomenon that I'm working on. And being able to make those connections strengthens your work because you have done your research. You're able to cite others and say, hey, this is what has happened before me. This is where I fit in. Yes, I'm taking a unique look or perspective at something. However, I'm not the only one who has taken a look at how to approach things in a way that might be different from the mainstream scholars in your discipline. And if you are, once again, working on work that is transformative, that's connected to those who have been marginalized by society, you want to take a look at those who emphasize what those communities have to offer. And so I want to encourage you to network. I want to encourage you to follow up on advice. I want to encourage you to read. I want to encourage you to make connections and draw parallels from others to help enhance your work. Thank you for tuning in to the BlackLiberation.Tech podcast, brought to you by Jordan Nuance LLC and hosted by Dr. Renee Jordan. We hope today's episode has inspired you and provided valuable insights to help you navigate your academic and professional journey with confidence and success. Remember to like, subscribe, and share, as well as rate and review the podcast to help it become more discoverable. Whether you're guiding a child through grades 6 through 12, tackling undergraduate or graduate studies, working on a dissertation or thesis, or exploring your career options, this podcast is here to support you every step of the way. Join our community on patreon.com/BlackLiberationTech and become a member for as low as $5 per month. As a member, you'll enjoy exclusive access to live recordings, impromptu academic and career coaching, and a network of like-minded individuals committed to mutual support and success. Don't forget to follow Black Liberation Tech on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and LinkedIn, or Black Lib Tech on X, formerly known as Twitter. Visit black-liberation.tech for even more information on Dr. Jordan's adventures, available in both English and Spanish. Stay inspired, stay empowered, and keep moving forward. Until next time, take care. Bye-bye.